Welcome back to IronCAST, everybody. IronCAD's official podcast about all things CAD. I'm Rafaram Shashi, a product marketing engineer at IronCAD.
And I'm Sydney Rich, the head of marketing here at IronCAD.
Today, we're sitting down with Michael Bowen, and we would like to hear more about his experience with IronCAD. So welcome to the show, Michael. Would you like to briefly introduce yourself?
I can do. I'm Mike Bowen. I'm the drawing office manager for Axium Process. We're based in South Wales in the UK.
Perfect. Let's dive right in, right? So every company has an origin story. For our listeners who might not be familiar with Axiom Process, could you tell us how the company came to be and share a bit about your personal journey with it?
Yeah, sure. The company was started way back in 2002 by a husband and wife team called Dave and Margaret Olsworth, and they were pioneers in membrane filtration. And Axiom Process was founded then in 2002, and two decades later, we've got a global presence in manufacturing of membrane filtration systems and process skids and pressure vessels and things like that. So I myself joined the company some 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years in November, and it's really been a pleasure to work for Axiom with the dynamic team and management that we've got here.
Nice. So your work in hygienic engineering for industries like food and pharma is so critical. Could you paint a picture for us of what a bespoke solution for Axiom really looks like? Like, take us to the factory floor. What does a project feel like from day one?
If I can sort of wind back from the factory floor, the project really starts with what we have to say. We'll have a project engineer who's the focal point in the company, and they will work with a customer from day one. There'll be a lot going on in the initial stages of meetings with the customer as far as what that person wants, what solutions they're looking for, and what problems they have. And it's so that the project engineer can get a practical understanding of what scopes needed. Once all that is done, where the project engineer's got understanding what instrumentation, layouts, that type of thing, then we'll have a handover to the drawing office, as still called. I don't think we'll ever get to be called something else. I try and call us the computer-aided design engineering office, but they say the drawing office, so that's what we are. So yeah, and then we'll have a handover, and we'll get a briefing and perhaps an ID, a typing and instrumentation diagram of what the customer wants, and that's really when the fun starts. And this is, if we can start to talk about IronCAD already, because I'm so passionate about it, is that very quickly, with the information, we can create quite a comprehensive model for the customer, and then they can really see then what we're looking at and what they're looking at, and very quickly they could decide, no, I don't want this, I don't want that. So the quicker we can get something to the customer that's quite comprehensive, then we can quickly get feedback. So that's what it is from the drawing office side, is how quickly we can generate a working model that the customer can have feedback, give feedback on. And I sort of like to think that if we can get back to the customer before they can get back to us, we're always on the front foot then. So that's really it from the drawing side on initial project work.
But do you say that is something that motivates your team to get, like, when you're tackling these complex projects?
Yes, everything is unique. As you know, we're bespoke, and we're bespoke with a capital B, literally.
Yeah.
And again, knowing when you've got a software that can do the job easily, then you're not scared of the changes or what the task is in hand. You relish it and you look forward to it. So yeah, everyone is unique. Everything is enjoyable. And that's what motivates us, because it's another new jigsaw puzzle that we gotta put together. So
That's amazing. One of the things that when we were writing this customer story with you guys, it's something that we could feel when we were doing our first interviews, that this is something that's part of that Axiom Process mission and the things that you guys value. So definitely kudos to you guys, because it definitely comes through.
thank you.
Let's go back in time a little bit. So before you fully integrated IronCAD, the case study mentions that design bottlenecks could erode client confidence, and that having a single designer unavailable was a real problem for an SME like Axium. Could you take us back to a specific project where this was happening? Like walk us through a day where a design change came in and you felt that friction from your old tools.
When I joined Axiom, obviously the company was doing things, they were doing things well, but I felt that we could improve a lot. When we had design changes, there was meetings about what the design change should be. There were minutes taken. The minutes were put on a Word document. Word document had screenshots of the model with circles on what needed to be changed. And so it was very clunky and it wasn't dynamic and immediate, really. And I thought, well, this needs to change because we couldn't really get back to the client as quick as I would like to give them timescales on when we could give them answers to their design change. I'd like the saying, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And that's the same with timescales. If you can't give a client a timescale, then we started to lose momentum. We started to lose faith with the customer. We'll let you know, or hopefully it should be at this and that time, and not good answers for the customer. So I wanted to alleviate that, and that's when one day I was driving home, and I thought, I've got a better solution in mind. I've got to sell it to the company, and that's when the path of IronCAD started to evolve.
That's very interesting to me because it's like you kind of get to a boiling point where you're just like, okay, I need to make a change, and everything kind of hinges on, being able to make that change, and kind of making the process smoother. So can you describe the feeling in the office when a client requested a significant change mid-project? What was truly at stake for Axiom when those projects faced delays, and what did that pressure feel like for your team?
There was a couple of things that would happen when there was significant design changes. Was that the software we were using, people were designing models, and it was very individualistic approach. People would not want to go on somebody else's model because the way they've designed it, the way it was structured, and we'd have sort of comments like, I don't really know how they put that together. I don't really want to touch it. They're not in today. Can you leave it until Monday until they get back in? In an SME, when you've got someone out and we can't move the project forward, that can be harmful. So again, with IronCAD, it's so simple that when you build a model, it becomes the company model, not an individual's model. And my colleague Mark and I, he's working on different projects than I am, but I know when he's not in the office, I can go and look at his models. I know exactly what he's done. I can rearrange, I can make big changes, and I know that the model is going to stand up to all the rigorous changes that we make. So that was the big thing, is get away from individuality, and it becomes a company model. So
Fantastic. In IronCAD, we like to say history based, not history bound. That's one of the things that, like you're talking about, where if somebody makes a change, you don't, or if you need to make a change in somebody else's model, you don't necessarily need to be bound to the way that they structured their model. You know exactly what they've done. And if you make any changes to it, you're good to go.
yes, yeah, I totally agree with that. And I feel in software that I've used and people have used before, they're very reluctant to delete anything out of the model. They will hold on to that model for dear life and say, I'm not deleting anything. I'm going to try and change it. And IronCAD, its simplicity and the ease of use, I'm not afraid when I'm looking at something that I need to totally redesign as the right, I need to delete that, and that, and start again in that area. And I know it'll just be quick, if not quicker, than trying to alter something. So you get the best of both worlds, the confidence of restructuring the model, know it's going to behave at the end of it. So
Cool. So the story mentions that you recognized IronCAD's potential over 15 years ago, and it became integral about 5 years ago. Can you share the story of that discovery? What was that aha moment that made you realize that this CAD system was fundamentally different from the traditional tools that you were using?
yeah, about 15 plus years ago, I think, I was at some CAD conference or meeting, and there was a man there. I don't know his name, but he had a seat of IronCAD on his laptop, and I was looking at over his shoulder because I find everybody's doing something more interested than you are on the laptop than what you're doing. So I asked him what it was, and he said it's IronCAD, which I think is it Industrial Revolution on CAD? I think is IronCAD stands for. I'm not sure, but anyway,
Yes.
he showed it to me, and I thought, wow, this is different. And there were three things that jumped out at me, and that was the catalogs. He showed me how to drag a shape in, put a hole in it, put a fillet on it, shell it, you name it. And the hand opener sketch. And the other thing was the tribal. And as you know, I'm a big fan of the tribal, and everything was done in a single scene. So it was those three things which just set everything apart. And life took me in a different direction, and I didn't get the opportunity to use IronCAD then, but I downloaded a 24-day trial and played around with it a lot. And I thought, why aren't people using this in droves? Or how come I haven't heard of it? But that's by the by. And when I joined Axium, I saw how things were being done here, and I thought we can improve on this drastically. As I was driving home, I thought, right, I've got to make the decision and present IronCAD to the directors of Axiom Process, which is what I did.
Nice. So you're driving home, you realize, okay, we've got to make a switch. You tussle with the idea of, I'm going to present this thing to this big group of people. Walk us through those first few weeks after you've convinced people and you've made the switch. What did it feel like to implement such a significant change within the team?
Firstly, like I say, I had to convince the company. So I downloaded the trial, went through it. IronCAD had moved on leaps and bounds since the last time I looked over the shoulder of that guy with it on his laptop, and the IronCAD mechanical, the piping, and the as we call them, elbows, and all the other catalogs. I thought this is just exactly what we need, and so I did a demonstration to my CEO, and this was the make or break one. And he looked at it and said, "How much does it cost?" And I showed him the quote, and he said, "Yeah, get it." So we had 2 seats of it. But then I had to tell it to the project engineers, and I needed to get them on side because they'd been through, if I can mention it, Autodesk Inventor, SolidWorks, and I came along and said, "We've got this great software called IronCAD," and they went, "Oh, here we go again." But I sat everyone down individual, every project engineer down individually, and give them a tour of IronCAD, how it would work and how it would benefit them. Some of the feedback I had is one of the project engineers said, "That's how I thought CAD was supposed to work." So I thought, yeah, we're getting people on site now. And then it flourished from there then. The ease of use of IronCAD, that built confidence, as I say. People could go back to companies with better lead times on responses of design changes. It just made everything that much smoother.
Wow. So talking a little bit about that learning process for other people, the story mentions that Mark went from being a brand new user to leading a major project in just days. And that's pretty remarkable. So for anyone who's listening, who's intimidated by learning software, can you share what that experience was really like? What was most surprising about how quickly you became productive compared to other systems?
Yeah, I needed an additional person to the drawing office, and I knew Mark was in a transition between employment, and I come in and take a look around at Axiom. And Mark is he's been around the block, and he's used Pro Engineers, Ideas, SDRC, and NX, and a few others that I didn't hear of. And I said, "We're using IronCAD. Have you ever heard of it?" He says, "No, I haven't." Anyway, we talked further, and I offered him a position, and he said, "I can start in 3 weeks' time." And I said, "Why don't you download IronCAD and have a look?" And he said, "Oh, if I've got time, I will do." But he didn't. So he came and started on the Thursday with us. I sat down with him on IronCAD on the Thursday and through certain things. Obviously, he knew icons like extrude, revolve, shell, that type of thing. If a CAD operator can recognize icons and features, then they're okay. Showed him how the tribal worked, and then on the Monday, I had him start. I thought, we'll throw him in the deep end. We'll start him on a major project, and the learning curve was literally 2 days, and he was on a major project. And that's how quick and easy it is for someone who's got a ground in I would say, any other CAD software. It's that quick.
Wow. That's a really quick turnaround time. 2 days, that's no time at all when it comes to learning a new system,
Yeah, yeah.
and being able to get into a new project, really. And a major fear for any company, really, switching CAD systems is the nightmare of dealing with years of legacy data. And the story mentions the legacy data translator. Be honest. Was it really that seamless? Can you walk us through bringing an old complex assembly into IronCAD for the first time?
Yeah, the file translation package is to me second to none. I brought most of the files we bring in are the softwares and step files. They not only come in again into one scene, but once they are in IronCAD, I can still do so much with them. Again, due to the fact that you can hook up the tribal to anything in there. If it comes in as assembly, I can break the assembly down into individual components, and it's not a dead model. It's very much alive, and it's just so easy to use. You know, you're using the IronCAD tools on other models. It doesn't really matter what type of model it is. And if we then slowly transforming the design of that model, you can slowly delete pieces out of that model, bring in stuff from IronCAD catalogs, box sections in frames, that type of thing. And you slowly morph the model into an IronCAD model. And again, that is a seamless transition. Yeah, the translator package is top dog. Excellent.
Thank you. So we've talked a little bit about going from old models into IronCAD. Can we talk about new models? With IronCAD, you slashed your design iteration time from weeks to hours. But beyond the incredible time saving, what did that newfound agility unlock for Axiom? Did it directly enable you to take on massive challenges? Can you tell us about a particular project where you saw immediate benefits with IronCAD?
Yeah. I thought about this question while I was reading through. It's very difficult to find an individual project because every project was affected on the good side. That didn't really stand out. Everything stood out, and that's a good thing. New projects or bringing projects, old models in from existing projects, the ability to change designs and manipulate the designs again reduces that time frame that we can get back to the customer with the first draft model, so to speak, where they can have a look at it, and we're getting into the situation where we can get back to the customer quicker than they can get back to us, and that's always a good place to be. I think, you know, I will ask the project and what's the latest on so and so project. They haven't got back to us yet. You know, because obviously the customer's busy and they've got things to do. So that's always a nice position to be, is when we're waiting on the customer, because they then know the clock is ticking and they know that the lead time to completion is now in their court. It's when we're trying to do things and they're waiting on us. The other thing with being able to design and develop models and really detailed models is that we can talk to the customer more, get more feedback and make design changes, and we can do this all up front before we get into production and send work orders down to the shop floor, because once we go down there, we're in the business then of creating engineering design changes, which with the process within Axiom we have to document for traceability and accountability. So the more we can get done up front and the more the customer's happy, because we've gone back and forth numerous times and really nailed the design down, when it goes down to the shop floor, we know that we're not going to get any design changes. And this is one of the things I have noticed, is that our engineering design change log has got much smaller due to the fact we get things right first time, as opposed to when it's in production and further downstream. So that's been a real big indicator for me.
So you mentioned the customers and being able to get back to them faster than they can get back to you. The case study mentions that real-time changes in front of them, in front of customers, gives them a lot of confidence. Can you share a story from a client meeting where you modified a design on the fly using IronCAD? How did the customer react? And, how did that moment change the dynamic of your relationship with that customer?
Yeah, sure. In our office here, we've got a big TV, and I hook up IronCAD onto the TV. We have a round table, and we've had numerous clients, customers that have come in. We've shown them the model for the first time. The other thing that IronCAD can do great is I can bring a DXF file into IronCAD, into the single scene, and then I build the model within the room that they've given us in the DXF file. So they can see how far a wall is away from where we're going to put whatever we're going to put, the ceiling height. They've obviously got other equipment in the room, and straight away they can see, oh, we're going to have a problem here. There's a pillar there that we didn't realize would be an issue, especially over things like piping and spools on membrane skids, that type of thing. Can we take that spool around the back of that pillar rather than the front? And we'll do it straight away in front of them. And they'll go, oh, right, well, that doesn't look right. Could you put it back again? And we could make numerous changes, and they'll do it on the fly. And usually by the time they come back to the company, they'll be on the phone again. Can you change that back to where it was, or can you move this? Can you move that? Because they know then just how quickly we can respond to the changes. And that builds a lot of confidence then.
Nice. And that's also one of the benefits with like the realistic renders and that kind of thing. It's easier for you to be able to see the locations of where you're going to put stuff and, you know, what you like and dislike about it.
So there's two things that we need to do with the customers. First of all, find out what they do want, and also in amongst that is find out what they don't want. And sometimes the customer doesn't even know what they don't want. And up until the time, we'd have the PNID, which is very two-dimensional. Once they see it in 3D, I didn't realize that was so big or whatever. And again, it's the ability of IronCAD. If we're doing things like tanks, you can have a 500-litre tank, and the ability to make it whatever size shape, we can do it. I was looking about doing a tank the other day, and with everything, with a cooling system on it and a insulating jacket, ferrules, instrumentation, all the legs, just a morning's work. It's that quick. So Mark and myself sometimes we'll even have an IronCAD shootout. Sometimes say, right, let's see who can pick something the quickest.
Nice. So, Michael, you described IronCAD's Triball as the Swiss Army knife of the CAD industry. That's a perfect description. Can you walk us through a real-world scenario where using the Triball or the drag and drop catalogs literally saved you, as you mentioned, hours, if not days, on a modification?
Yeah, I think I've sort of hit on it and mentioned it in other questions that you just asked.
Yeah.
When you bring things in from a catalog, straight away you can have a tribal on it, and then you manipulate it. When you bring in a step file, you can go into that step file, disassemble it. Again, you move things with the tribal. The tribal is just everywhere. And that's when Mark joined. I said, get to know the tribal. And I said, if you can't think of a problem or a solution, rather, think tribal. The answer is there. And now he's it's just like anybody. He says, I've forgotten things like constraints and concentric and distance constraints. We don't use them anymore. We've got no need for them. We just put things in place, they stay there. And once you get that concept into your head, then you're away. And I think it's embracing a different way of modeling. And once you do that, then you realize, why did I ever go down the other road? So the tribal for me is like I say, it just does everything.
Yeah, there are a lot of situations where I try to think in the way that I used to think prior to IronCAD, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, I have to think of this in a different style of modeling because this is just so much more efficient. Things like the drag and drop catalog and the tribal, like we mentioned. But beyond those benefits that you expected, have there been any unexpected advantages or pleasant surprises since adopting IronCAD?
Yes. Again, the single scene is fabulous. Sheet metal, working with the sheet metal in a single scene is such a revelation. Other software packages, you bring in a sheet, you manipulate it, and then it'll go into the assembly. So you don't really know what's happening with that sheet until you get into the assembly. With IronCAD, you just start wrapping the sheet around whatever you're going to do, and you could see it happening. The sheet metal function is, we use it a lot here. We've sent out a lot of them the DXF files to laser companies, and they come back spot on, and we can see where problems occur because the sheet metal in IronCAD it's so easy to manipulate, and we can see problems arise straight away. It's that the sheet metal, and I also like the 3D Find It, which is the add-in that IronCAD adds. It's like another worldwide catalog that I can draw down from, and again, I've never had a step file, I think, from whatever company I've been downloading something from that I can't manipulate inside the scene. And IronCAD now has a direct link to 3D Find It, so it's simple. Go and find the model I want, put it in IronCAD, and it's straight there in the scene. That is a big game changer, and the project guys have seen that, where they would previously phone up the company, ask for the step file, get it sent, pass it to me. Now they know that we've got 3D Find It, and I can drag whatever I want into the model, and that has been a real time saver and a game changer. So that's a very good move.
Nice. And so kind of switching gears a little bit, you mentioned how you've been able to make all of these amazing changes in the blink of an eye, and it's really helped you like build your relationships with customers. It's helped you um, accomplish projects much faster. When you're thinking about the mission to solve the toughest engineering challenges, looking forward, what do you think will be the biggest challenge on the horizon for Axiom, and how do you imagine overcoming it?
Obviously, the biggest challenge, like any company growing, is the manpower that's needed, the skill sets that's needed within the company. I look at the drawing office as we progress and as we move forward, and will need additional people within the office. I don't worry about it simply because I know that the learning curve and that individual, even with minimal CAD experience, can quickly pick up IronCAD and quickly become an integral part of the team and the drawing office team. So yeah, it's how to bring that individual into the company, into the drawing office, and get them up and running. That I know won't take long. The big thing would be understanding the language of the company, of all the component parts and the instrumentation that we use, and each company has its sort of individual language about instruments, components, processes, that type of thing. I think that part of it will take longer than learning the software.
Nice. Mark gave some powerful advice in the article. He said, delaying changing to IronCAD is costing you. If you were having a coffee with an engineering manager from another SME today who's facing some of those same bottlenecks that you used to, what would you tell them?
Well, I'll tell you what Mark wrote, because he wrote, and we'll steal his thunder. He said if he was at a coffee machine, or the water fountain, whatever, he'd go, here's the website, here's the phone number, ring him as soon as possible. He's on about IronCAD there. So there you go.
Very sound advice. We love to hear that. So looking back on this whole journey, is there any unexpected lesson or insight that you've gained that you think our listeners would appreciate?
Take a look at IronCAD. Don't get bogged down. I think there's a lot of people that are sort of proud that they can move forward in spite of the software that they use rather than because of it. Look at the way IronCAD works. It is a different way of working, but on the other side, don't mistake a simple piece of software for one that does have least functionality than a so-called complicated one. I mean, the beauty is in the simplicity of IronCAD, and I guarantee that once they go over, they won't come back.
That's great advice.
Thank you so much for sitting down with us, Michael.
Thank you very much for letting me come on the podcast.
Of course. Well, we appreciate you so much for joining us today, Michael. Definitely, you provide so much insight. And I know our listeners definitely will relate to a lot of the things that you experienced before you came to IronCAD. And like you said, once they get in front of them, that's when they see the true beauty of what IronCAD can do. So we appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you.
All right. And for those listening at home, thank you so much for joining us. This has been another episode of IronCAST, the official IronCAD podcast. Have a good one.